There's a brutal truth about money that almost nobody wants to admit out loud. The level you're sitting at right now, statistically, it's the level you'll die at, unless you understand the game that has quietly decided who rises and who stays stuck for the last 500 years. Niccolo Machiavelli mapped out how control over resources moves in stages. Not random stages, 7 distinct rooms, each with its own walls and its own locked door. Most people never see the architecture. They think money is just a number that goes up or down. They don't realize every income bracket is a room with its own furniture, its own walls, its own locked door. The wealthy don't avoid these rooms by accident. They map them. They know exactly which door traps you and which one lets you out. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly which room you're standing in, what's bolting the door shut, and what it costs to walk through it. Because staying in place was never neutral. It was always a decision, one you made by default, while somebody else made theirs on purpose. Let's start at the bottom. Level 1, the survival room. This is the level where fear writes every check before you do. Almost every decision here is made for you by pressure. Rent fear, debt fear, the fear that one unexpected expense tips the whole table over. A medical bill, a cracked phone screen at the worst possible week, a layoff on a Friday with no warning, one event and the floor disappears. This isn't financial life. This is financial triage. You are permanently one event away from collapse, and your peace is rented from forces that owe you nothing. Machiavelli wrote at length about dependency. To rely entirely on someone else's goodwill is to hand them your future in a box, gift-wrapped. At this level, your manager controls your week. Your landlord controls your address. Your bank controls whether your card works at checkout. You are a guest in your own life, and the host can change the locks whenever they like. Fear doesn't just sit there, it starts making your decisions for you. You stay in the job that drains you. You take the loan with the ugly interest rate because today's fire matters more than next year's flood. Each of those choices feels small. Stacked together, they become the walls of the room. This is how people lose not months, but years. Pain, used correctly, becomes tuition. Every overdraft fee teaches something. Some people only feel the pain. Others start taking notes. The ones who eventually leave this room aren't the lucky ones. They're the ones who get obsessed with the mechanics of money instead of the unfairness of it. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" they ask, "How does this system actually function?" That single shift is the hinge the whole door swings on. Level 2, the comfort room. This is the level where money starts to feel solved. On the surface, at least. You're not drowning anymore. Bills clear on time. There's breathing room, maybe a small cushion, a month or two of runway. To someone still in level 1, this looks like the finish line. It isn't. This is where the most convincing illusion in personal finance sets up shop. Machiavelli's sharpest insight was that the most dangerous position is partial security, because partial security feels exactly like the real thing. At this level, you still depend completely on your own output. Stop showing up, and the income stops with you. You've simply swapped panic for a softer cage. A nicer prison is still a prison. This is exactly where most people quietly stop climbing, not because they decide to, but because it stops feeling urgent. They perform wealth instead of building it. The car gets upgraded, the kitchen gets renovated. From the outside, it reads as winning, but underneath, the foundation hasn't moved. One emergency can still flatten the structure. One layoff, one bad month, and you're staring back into level 1 like it never let go of you. This is the modern trap, dressed up nicely. Comfort without freedom, stability without leverage, a full calendar without ownership of anything on it. People at this level get strangely resistant to change, because now they have something to protect. Even if what they're protecting is just the feeling of safety, they decorate the cage and call it a home. You're no longer desperate enough to be forced into change, but you're nowhere near secure enough to actually relax. You're stuck in the dead center, too comfortable to act, too dependent to exhale. Eventually, for some people, a question slips through. What if this comfort is the exact thing keeping me small? That question is the crack in the wall, and once it forms, you're standing at the entrance to level 3. Level 3, the leverage seed room. This is where money finally starts behaving differently than it ever has before. For the first time, you're not purely trading hours for dollars. You've built something, a side business, a system, a skill rare enough that people pay a premium for it, an investment account compounding in the background. Whatever the form, it hands you something you've never had, optionality. And optionality is the first real form of financial power. Machiavelli noted that once a ruler stops depending entirely on outside support, real strategy becomes possible. He can plan instead of react. That's what this level hands you. Mental space, enough runway to think in quarters instead of paychecks. You're still not wealthy by any honest definition, but for the first time, you're not mentally poor either. You can say no to a bad client. You can finally think in months instead of days. This stage feels powerful because it is, but it's also a test in disguise. Success starts whispering, "You've made it, this is plenty." For a huge number of people, that whisper is where the climbing quietly ends. They escape the financial floor, but never build real financial force. They settle into a life that's measurably better and permanently caped. This is the plateau where most ambition goes to retire early, because the next step demands something genuinely uncomfortable: risk. You have to be willing to put what you've already built on the table to build something bigger. That's the line most people refuse to cross. They want comfort, but fear expansion. Machiavellian logic asks one blunt question: are you satisfied with safety, or do you actually want leverage? There's a massive difference between escaping struggle and building actual influence over outcomes. One brings relief, the other brings control, which is exactly the bridge into the next stage, where money quietly stops being about effort and starts becoming a form of force. Level 4, the multiplier room. This is where the air gets noticeably thinner. Far fewer people make it here, and even fewer understand what's changed once they arrive. At this point, you're no longer simply earning money. You're architecting systems that produce it. Most people spend their working lives trading hours for a paycheck, chasing the promotion, sacrificing weekends for incremental raises. But at level 4, the game changes shape. You stop asking, "How do I work more hours?" and start asking, "How do I make 1 unit of effort produce 10 units of result?" This is the level where money starts working for you. Your systems generate returns while you sleep. Your reputation opens doors before you've even knocked on them. You stop reacting to circumstances, you start engineering them. Machiavelli would have called this true virtù, the ability to bend fortune to your will instead of simply absorbing whatever it throws at you. This is the level where ownership finally outranks income. Income pays your bills. Ownership builds your power. The crowd chases earning. The powerful chase control of the asset itself, because wealth was never really about labor. It was always about positioning. A single decision here can pay out for decades. You start thinking in horizons, 5, 10, 20 years out. Money stops being the goal. It becomes a tool, a lever. You use it to buy time, access, freedom, influence over rooms you're not even physically in. But this level carries a hidden tax. To climb this high, you have to become more disciplined, more detached. Sometimes that means ending partnerships that no longer point toward where you're going. People want the win without the discomfort, wealth without sacrifice, power while staying universally liked. That's not how this level works. Machiavelli understood it bluntly. Try to please everyone, and you forfeit strategic clarity entirely. At this stage, you have to get comfortable being misread, sometimes disliked, because real growth often looks like cruelty to outsiders, when really it's just precision. This is the level where discipline becomes identity. Short-term comfort is often what destroys long-term freedom. Survive that discomfort, and you cross into territory almost nobody ever reaches. Level 5, the command room. Now things get serious. At this level, you're not merely wealthy. You're rich in the way the word actually means something. Your resources outpace your needs so much that survival stops being part of the conversation. You hold assets that appreciate, capital that compounds on its own schedule, access to rooms and opportunities that simply don't exist for the levels below you. This is the stage where money quietly converts into influence. A single phone call can move capital. One decision can shift an entire market sector. Machiavelli watched this dynamic play out among the rulers of his era, people who stopped fearing threats and became the threat that everyone else feared. That's the essence of dominance. But here's the part nobody warns you about. This level isn't peace, it's pressure, measured at a much higher altitude. The competition changes shape. You're no longer up against the average person, but other heavyweights playing by a different rule book. The stakes get dramatically larger. One bad decision can erase years of progress. One wrong partnership can cost you the whole position. At this level, money solves a long list of old problems and introduces a new set of harder ones. Who can you actually trust? Who values you and who only values your position? This is the level where power starts distorting relationships at the root. Friendships get complicated, motives become hard to read. Machiavelli understood that power magnetizes both loyalty and deception in equal measure. The higher you climb, the more carefully you have to read intention. Threats stop coming only from below. They start arriving from equals, from people smiling across the table while quietly working against you. Here's a harder truth. Most people who reach this level had to make real trade-offs to get here. Ambition over comfort. Sometimes, uncomfortably, power over principle. That kind of climb changes a person. The price of dominance isn't only what you give up, it's who you become. But even past this level, there's one more room, rare enough that most people never even learn it exists. Level 6, the dominance room. This is the level where the numbers themselves stop meaning much. They're too large to register emotionally anymore. At this level, you're no longer playing inside the system. You're one of the people quietly defining it. You shape entire industries. You influence culture without trying to. Your decisions ripple through society in ways most people will never trace back to you. This is the territory of dynasties, of institutions, of names that become synonymous with influence, or, often, names that stay deliberately hidden by design. Machiavelli believed the highest form of power was never temporary control. It was institutional permanence, the ability to shape rules and influence outcomes across generations you'll never personally meet. Here's one of the strangest truths about ultimate financial power. The most powerful people frequently choose invisibility on purpose. Recognition at this altitude becomes a liability rather than a reward. Instead, they move through proxies, boards, foundations, structures 3 layers removed from their name. Machiavelli understood this completely. The highest level operators know exactly when visibility helps and when invisibility is the stronger play. That's mastery, not modesty. But even at this altitude, something is still missing. You've built an empire, systems that outlast your attention, and yet a quiet question surfaces in the rare moments you actually slow down. Built for what, exactly? That question is the doorway into the final level, the one almost nobody admits even exists, because admitting it means the chase was never really about the number on the screen. Level 7, the Legacy Room. This is no longer about money at all, not really. At this level, the real currency is legacy, meaning systems and structures that keep running long after you've stopped showing up to manage them. This is where money quietly converts into historical force. Money stops being personal and becomes philosophical. What do you actually want to leave behind? What structure keeps standing after you're gone? That's the real question Level 7 forces you to sit with. Because the final form money takes isn't position and it isn't luxury, it's meaning. The irony is almost cruel. You spend years chasing money only to eventually discover money was never the destination at all. It was only ever the bridge toward impact, toward legacy, toward the ability to shape reality on a longer timescale than your own lifetime. Almost nobody reaches this point, not because they couldn't generate enough money, but because they could never think past themselves. They couldn't think in decades, in generations, in centuries. The people who do think that far ahead end up changing the world, sometimes for the better, sometimes not, but always permanently. There will be stretches where people around you stop understanding your choices. They might call you obsessed, too ambitious, but history has never judged the people who actually moved the needle by the standards their contemporaries used in the moment. Machiavelli knew this. The person chasing real leverage can't keep living by the emotional rulebook of the crowd. The crowd values how things look. The strategist values how things actually turn out. That gap creates real distance between you and the people you started with. The climb is almost always lonely before it becomes visible to anyone else. This is exactly where most people quietly turn back. They don't have the appetite for delayed validation. They want the applause too early. But the higher levels are built in silence, in decisions nobody else sees you make. Strategic patience might be the rarest trait in the entire game. The discipline to keep building while everyone else is distracted, to keep investing while everyone else is consuming. That's how the gap widens, quietly for a long time, then suddenly all at once. Eventually people call it luck, but it was never luck. It was accumulation. Years of disciplined, repeated movement. Machiavelli understood that fortune only favors the people already prepared to seize it. Opportunity without structure collapses the second it's tested. The next level is never simply found. It's prepared for, often for years before it visibly pays off. So ask yourself honestly, what level are you actually preparing for? Not what you say you want out loud, what your daily habits are quietly, relentlessly building toward. Every single day, you're either climbing or settling. There's no neutral gear. Every purchase, every relationship, every hour, every low standard you tolerate, it all compounds, whether you're paying attention or not. The map is fully laid out now. You know all 7 rooms, the survival room, the comfort room, the leverage seed room, the multiplier room, the command room, the dominance room, and the legacy room, and the price each one charges at the door. The only question left is the one that actually matters. Are you willing to pay what it costs to climb? Because the next level is always sitting there, available. The path has never disappeared. Most people simply lack the discipline, the hunger, and the strategic honesty to actually walk it. The decision is yours now. Will you stay exactly where you are or become something else entirely? The question. So now, the question becomes unavoidable. Which level are you actually standing in right now? Not the level you describe at dinner parties, not the highlight reel you post. The real level, defined by your actual freedom, your actual resources, your actual control over your own time. Most people eventually settle into a level that feels comfortable enough, and they simply stop climbing. They tell themselves stillness is peace, that comfort is the same thing as success. And for some people, maybe it is. But if something in you still feels restless reading this, you already know the truth. Wherever you're standing right now isn't enough. And that realization is actually a form of power, because the gap between every level isn't intelligence, it isn't luck, it's hunger, the refusal to accept a financial life designed entirely by fear, habit, or someone else's expectations. Machiavelli understood something predictable about human nature. Most people chase comfort, approval, a feeling of safety. Very few actually chase power. And by power, this was never just about a bigger number in an account. It's the power to choose, to build a financial life that answers to your will instead of your circumstances. But every level extracts a price. Most people fail to climb because they want the reward without paying for it. Wealth without discipline, influence without sacrifice, legacy without ever taking on real risk. The ladder doesn't work that way. Every rung asks you to set down something you used to carry. At level 1, you give up helplessness. At level 2, the illusion of comfort. At level 3, the false safety of staying small. At level 4, the need for everyone's approval. At level 5, simplicity. At level 6, the need to be seen. And at level 7, ego itself. That's why so few people make the full climb. Every level asks the same uncomfortable question. What are you actually willing to become? Growth was never only external. It's psychological first. Money changes after the mindset changes. That's why most people stay stuck. They try to change the outcome without changing themselves. New goals, same old habits. Reality doesn't reward desire. It rewards transformation. Machiavelli never promised fairness. He simply described, with brutal clarity, how the actual game works. The world respects leverage, strategic patience, and above all, whoever can see reality exactly as it is, without flinching. That might be the single most important lesson buried in all 7 levels. Who actually controls the resources around you right now? Who profits quietly if you never climb at all? Uncomfortable questions, but necessary ones. The moment you start asking them, your thinking sharpens. You stop drifting. You start moving with intention. Every person who ever built real financial power made one private decision first. They decided their current level was permanently unacceptable. That decision, not the money, not the lucky break, is where the climb genuinely begins. One person accepts their level as fixed. The other refuses to. One normalizes the struggle. The other studies it like a subject to master. That gap compounds, quietly, year after year. Small decisions calcify into habits. Habits calcify into identity. Identity hardens into destiny. Which is exactly why this whole framework is less about money itself and far more about self-command. Can you delay pleasure long enough to execute a strategy? Can you stay disciplined when nobody is watching? Can you keep building when the results are still invisible? That's the line between people who climb and people who only dream about climbing. Dreamers talk about the next level. Climbers quietly pay for it in advance. And the price is rarely glamorous. It's repetition, sacrifice, long stretches of being misunderstood, consistency on the days it would be easier not to bother.